evidence over the last year has become still firmer and stronger. My chief scientist, and indeed the government's chief scientist, John Beddington, keep making the point that the certainties are now such that the imbalance in some of the media reporting is quite as surprising as if we were going to be trying to balance out the views of Galileo or Copernicus. But it's a 90% chance that we are burning our house down, then it seems to me there's a very good argument for paying the insurance premium. And that is exactly what this government's determined to do. The Prime Minister, rather scarily for me, and Michael will no doubt have been through these sort of occasions with his own ministerial experience, turned up within a week of the election at the department and announced, quite rightly, that we were going to be the greenest government ever, but he also announced that he was going to be the fourth minister in the department, which puts a whole new perspective on prime ministerial scrutiny. But it certainly is the case that this government is determined to lead from the top and determined that we should do our bit. We can't be taken seriously in leading this agenda unless we're seen to be leading it ourselves, and that's one of the reasons why we committed to the 10% reduction in carbon emissions from our own estate over the next 12 months. It's a great pleasure to be here for the opening of the Carbon Show and to see such energy and enthusiasm on display. I gather that a record attendance, which is great. Emissions trading is, after all, something of an economic curiosity. It's a negative market, and you could argue that for the first time in human history we're actually trading in consequences, and in pretty important consequences at that. The carbon market exists and is successful. It's testament to just how far we've come. The US National Air Pollution Control Administration first modeled cap and trade 40 years ago for sulfur, and ironically it was the Europeans who imported an American idea and an American scheme, rather in the hope that we would find it easier to sell it back to them. That hasn't quite happened yet. We're still working on it. And over the next 40 years, we have to hasten our emissions reductions and build a new kind of economy. Because the next global growth sector is green, countries and companies who do not see the opportunities before them will be left behind. Now, at this point of the business cycle, people often ask, where are the jobs going to come from? And the answer, in very large measure, is here in this room today. The promise of the low-carbon economy is, frankly, breathtaking. In jobs, in goods and services, and in finance, green opportunities are not just emerging, they're blossoming. We're already employing more than 900,000 people in the low-carbon economy in the UK. Wind turbines to eco-kettles, low-carbon products form a multi-trillion-pound global market with growth that outstrips world GDP by a substantial measure. And with a vibrant technology and research sector, the UK is well placed to take advantage of the new clean tech markets. From offshore wind to carbon capture and storage, we're already leading the way. If we can convert our scientific advantages into hard commercial success, we can cut carbon and lock in profits. Take carbon capture and storage. If you look at the citations in peer-reviewed journals, we are streets ahead in the UK of every other developed economy on that technology. And it's, I believe, an enormous opportunity for us. It can make us more secure at home and more competitive abroad. We can do our bit to help. The government is committed to an ambitious programme to reduce emissions, as I said, and to close the gap between energy supply and energy demand. And our approach is based on three simple principles. Firstly, we need to save energy. It's the cheapest way of closing the gap between energy demand and energy supply in the future. And every day, the UK's housing stock leaks heat and carbon. We are less efficient, for example, in heating our homes than Sweden, even though temperatures in Sweden in January are 7 degrees below ours. Later this year, we will launch the Green Deal, a radical scheme to bring our outdated homes up to scratch. 26 million households across the country will qualify for energy efficiency improvements under the Green Deal, which are of a level of ambition that I don't think people have yet fully appreciated. We're intending that there should be one visit to each home between now and 2050, which will be consistent with making those homes able to cut our carbon emissions by 80%, as we're legally committed to do by 2050. And the residential sector is key to that because it emits a quarter of all our carbon emissions. The cost of those energy-saving packages put in by private business, the energy utilities, small businesses, B&Q, will be paid for from the savings in the energy bills, plus hard-to-treat homes, and in some other cases, a measure of cross-subsidy. Thousands of jobs will be created insulating homes and businesses right the way across the country. At the moment, we have about 27,000 people employed in insulation. We estimate at full stretch, which hopefully we will reach by about 2014, we'll be looking at 250,000 people employed in this sector alone, with ripple effects across supply chains and local economies right the way across the country. A whole new industry will emerge, one that can claw back the ground lost during the recession. This multi-billion-pound nationwide retrofit will save money and energy and, of course, carbon. Homes and businesses will make huge efficiency savings, but there's room for improvement in power-hungry industries as well. The CRC energy efficiency scheme is already causing ripples in the sectors which use the most energy. No one, least of all this government, wants to burden businesses with extra responsibilities without clear benefit. And we will keep a close eye on the CRC. We'll make sure it's effective, simple, streamlined, and that we're encouraging those industries that need it most. If it can be improved, we will make changes before the next stage in 2013. Secondly, we need, so the first point is energy saving. Secondly, we need to clean up our supply of power. The replacement of our outdated energy infrastructure and the creation of a new low-carbon set of power plants will present real opportunities for British business. Ofgem estimates it's £200 billion of capital needed over the next 10 years alone, an enormous replacement cycle, well beyond the normal investment in the plant. And investors and manufacturers alike can benefit from the shift to low-carbon power generation. And again, we will do our bit to help by setting the right frameworks, by establishing the Green Investment Bank, which will help us to catalyse private sector finance, bringing forward a new generation of low-carbon energy production, and by leveraging private finance on behalf of public policy aims, we can spend a little to secure a lot. The next generation of wind, wave, and waste energy help us get off the oil hook and onto clean, green growth, so that by the end of this Parliament we will be the fastest improving European nation when it comes to renewable energy. And we have some catching up to do. At the moment we rank 25th out of 27 of the European Union member states for installed renewables capacity. We are beaten to the wooden spoon only by Malta and Luxembourg. And as Michael, you will remember, this is not a country that likes to play in the European Conference League. We aim to be up there in the Premiership. 2 weeks ago, I launched the world's largest offshore wind farm at Thanet in Kent. It's a spectacular creation, 300 megawatts of capacity, bringing our offshore total to 5 gigawatts. Each of the 100 turbines is higher than Nelson's column, and to my mind, just as majestic. Within the next decade, industry is aiming for a tenfold increase in capacity from offshore wind. Few sectors are comfortable making claims like that in the current climate, and even fewer would expect to honour them, but I expect that the sector will. The growth in renewable power generation and the replacement of our ageing energy infrastructure make a compelling case. Green growth is the best bet for our future prosperity. It's also best, of course, for the future of our planet. A third of UK emissions come from electricity generation, and conversion losses compound the problem. Burning fossil fuels isn't just bad for the atmosphere, it's also an inefficient way of transforming energy. We need to get the right mix of technologies and energy sources so that we can play to our strengths. And that includes cleaning our existing fossil fuel plants with strong emissions performance standards and a commitment to carbon capture and storage pilots. Now, some dismiss carbon capture and storage as a sticking plaster solution to a critical problem. But until we can produce our electricity cleanly, we must minimise the damage done by dirty fuels. And with a new coal-powered plant switching on every week in China, our ability to develop and export carbon capture and storage on a commercial scale makes environmental and business sense. And finally, it's vital that we set out as a third strand, saving, first strand, secondly, how we generate clean power, and thirdly, it is vital that we set out a credible path towards a global emissions deal. That means working with our European partners in support of an ambitious international climate change agenda. And that's why, together with my French and German colleagues, I've called for a more challenging European Union emissions target of 30% reduction by 2020, not 20%. A higher target will strengthen Europe's signals of intent, and that is absolutely key, as you know in this room, if we're to ensure that we get that new generation of low-carbon industries growing as fast as we can. Aspiration is important. It tells investors that Europe's future prosperity is tied to the low-carbon economy. And at the moment, the EU emissions trading price, carbon price, is simply not high enough. Doesn't provide the long-term certainty investors need to commit to low-carbon generation. And although we can do something domestically, as we announced in the budget, we can publish and will publish proposals this autumn to reform the climate change levy to secure a more effective, more representative carbon price here in the UK. And that will help our own first mover advantage and open up opportunities for British business. But it isn't a substitute in the long run for greater ambition at EU level. The coalition agreement is also very clear that we will seek an ambitious, legally binding global deal on emissions reductions. I make no bones about the fact that such a deal is unlikely this year. Instead, we will focus our energies on rebuilding political consensus and momentum and getting the right structures in place before the next round of negotiations in South Africa next year. And the first step will be to bring emissions offers made since Copenhagen and in the Copenhagen Accord into the UNFCCC process. That we can strengthen the measurement, reporting and verification system is crucial, so that developing and developed countries have faith that progress is measured fairly and firmly. And finally, we can clarify the structure and the governance of long-term climate finance. These are practical, achievable steps that we can take to firm up the international climate change negotiations in Cancun and to prepare the ground for a global deal. Action on energy efficiency to manage our own demand, action on energy generation to clean up our own supply, and action on the international stage to secure a binding legal deal to cut emissions. These are the three principles that underpin our approach. They will drive us towards a new low-carbon economy, one that is more competitive, more secure, and more sustainable. Thank you very much.